Good morning.
Good morning. I always like to start at this door.
This is a beautiful day in July, and Lucy and I have decided to sell off some of our vintage pieces. So people are going to have an opportunity to buy some of these pieces. Okay, I'm going to talk about a few of the things we think are quite special and unusual. This is a tankard that Franz Richter carved that I made in 1986. And here's a cup with the same carving on it. And I started my business with Franz, and he did a lot of my early carving, and as Lucy did. When we went to Norway in 1989, we saw many museums with these very huge, sometimes gigantic wooden objects for drinking beer at weddings. And this is kind of the biggest piece I made, and this is a goose. And Lucy rose-mauled this in the year 2000. So they would drink beer out of this at weddings.
Okay, we're having a beer drinking demo here, yes.
And,
see what else.
The second piece I wanted to talk about is one carved by my son in the year 2000.
Son Luke.
And everything
He's got three
is
sons.
dated. So this is year 2000.
This is one of my favorite carved rose mold ale bowls. And we kept this.
Yes.
The example of the carving and the rose mulling both turned out well. And that is a good thing.
I think it's a 1988, just before we went to Norway. Mm-hmm. And Lucy did beautiful carving, and the rose mulling was great.
Well, plus, at that time, the kiln has a lot of effect on how things turn out, and we were still able to get this beautiful brown iron oxide was coming through, and I can't really get that effect anymore as clearly. So,
I read a book. I got one out of the library about Pablo Picasso and his ceramics. Not very few people know that he ever did ceramics, but he took off about 2 years from his painting and sculpture, which he's, of course, obviously world famous for, and he did ceramics. So in the year 2010, I did a bunch of these, and Lucy did a great job of painting this one.
During that same period, I did some pretty complicated design work, applying all of that red glaze and the green glaze were kind of applied separately because they once it's dipped, those things disappear unless the wax resist holds them down.
This is 2011.
So that's kind of the same period. And we did, this bowl is of the same period. And then also these are a series of Primstav jars where I carved a Primstav symbol on the lid, and then did kind of an expanded idea. For example, this is Santa Lucia symbol, and then it has kind of stars and lights on there. So that was really fun to be able to expand into some color. Yeah, that's
the same series.
That's kind of.
And these were 2011.
Oh yeah, that was a fun find.
There was very little ceramics done in Norway because they didn't have clay. Denmark had the clay, so basically Norway is all rock, so it has not decomposed into clay yet. So in the year 2000, we started making these Hadland pots. And this was discovered north of Oslo in a find, very old piece. It was broken, and so they just had the shards of it. But we tried to make one similar to it.
Yeah, we were very excited to find an old piece of Norwegian ceramics.
Yes.
And another kind of ancient-y piece is this, my interpretation of runic lettering that is carved into kind of I called it an Icelandic thing. I thought this is a very labor-intensive piece that I only did one of, and then this is this kind of interlace carving that is so beautiful and so difficult to do. So that was
yeah, you can see the intertwined dragons.
This, I also really like this example of a horsehead ale bowls are really kind of how we became known as Scandinavian folk artists. Because, here, this is kind of a fun
Okay,
one.
yeah. In 1983, at the North Husfest in Minot, which I demonstrated there for 20 years.
The first one, I think.
On my potter's wheel. And yeah, Ben, our youngest son, was only a few months old and was at the fest, I guess, with Lucy. And anyway, the Princess Ostrid walked up to me and I was demonstrating, and she wanted to shake my hand. You know, she offered her hand, which, you know, was really something for royalty to do that. And she said she was a potter and was really interested in my work. So I demonstrated this piece for her, and I have that written on the bottom. So this obviously is a one-of-a-kind piece. Lucy did the carving on here.
Yeah, the Vesterheim did some very nice commissions of our work, and this was one that was for King Harald V, and for a 1993 visit. I don't know where that was exactly. And Jean
93
documented it all on the back. This is one of my first Wise and Foolish Virgins bowls, which I loved tapestry designs, and the Wise and Foolish Virgins are one of the most common of Scandinavian Norwegian tapestry designs, and they're so splendid.
It's a king being dressed by two of his servants, probably.
He's making up the story, just so you know. Okay.
And we found many of our pieces come from the Norwegian drinking vessel book.
We studied that book
this piece was in there, and they were in wood. But in 1990 or 99, I started making these out of clay. And then I decided to make one out of basswood also in the year 2004.
And then we've got a large shelf here of Christmas bowls, good Yule bowls. And they, from many years, because we also had to make, we never knew exactly how many to make, so that there were some extras some years, and sometimes not any. So this will be a chance for you to complete your collections if you're missing certain years.
Because France is so important to our work, I thought I would show some crocks that he made with bison. Besides his interest in Scandinavian things, he was also very interested in the American Indian. And these were done in 2008. When it was his year to make the posters for the meander. So this is a print that will go along with this crock to show the significance of it. I made the crock, Franz did the buffalo.
Yep.
And they're all signed and dated, as always.
I love this design. I've studied textiles for years to apply them to design to our pots, and this is kind of an Swedish or Finnish embroidery design. Clay when it's wet,
yes.
Right?
Beautiful rose mowing on this one, and this is 97. I made a series of these.
This is an arrangement of that really shows the red and green work of a certain period. This red glazes is where we aren't able to get it anymore, so it's quite a treasured thing. These are kind of traditional forms with chip carved handles. Jean did a beautiful design jar here, some wax resist. I really loved the wax resist experimentation that we did. Jean and I both love the found handles that we saw in people using in furniture or different things. Oh, the Magna Holter one, we forgot about that one. Yep, this one was one of our precious pieces because it was made in Norway when we were there in 1989, and I got to be a student. Magna Holter was teaching a class when we arrived at the academy, and I was so excited about his work. He was a contemporary Norwegian designer, and he was using traditional folk elements in the way that I was starting to use them. And it was like, oh, this is the place where I need to be. And the Christmas, that's like the only Christmas platter that doesn't have a hanger, and that was your first one, 1979. We went to get our collection of Franz Haug folk figures that Gene collected when they were working together when Gene was started his first pottery studio in Franz's farm place. Here's a pen. Also, chickens have been a regular part of the studio, and wonderful teapot, a map of Lacaparle on this mug. I remember Gene extruding this for the mains. They had a special little tool that he was able to make this strands and strands of this bowl that he did a number of pieces where he added metal as a rim. That was kind of a traditional element that we saw. Here's the piece that was part of our Going to Norway project. That gives you kind of a quick look. There's more information that will be about each of these pieces online at our Tokheim-Stoneware.com, or you can email us or call us about any other questions you have. We're going to begin.